My girlfriend always keeps bringing up how perfect her ex was and even suggested I take tips from him. So I dump her in the exactly same way like her ex did. I, 28M, met my girlfriend, 26F, about 18 months ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. The connection was instant. She was smart, funny, and we shared similar interests in outdoor activities and traveling. Things progressed naturally, and within a few months, we were officially dating. The first 6 months were amazing. We traveled together, tried new restaurants, and spent quality time with each other's friends and family. Everyone commented on how well we complemented each other. But around the 7-month mark, things started to change. It began subtly at first, occasional comments about her ex and how he used to handle certain situations. At first, I didn't think much of it. People sometimes reference past relationships, right? But then the comparisons became more frequent and increasingly detailed. During dinner one evening, she mentioned how her ex always knew exactly what wine to pair with each dish. When we were planning a weekend getaway, she reminisced about how her ex would create detailed itineraries weeks in advance. Even during simple moments like watching TV together, she'd slip in comments like, "My ex had this amazing way of giving shoulder massages while we watched movies." I tried to have an honest conversation with her about how these constant comparisons made me feel. She apologized and promised to be more mindful. Things improved for about 2 weeks before she fell back into the same pattern. But what really got to me was when she started suggesting I should learn from her ex's approach to relationships. She said one evening while we were having dinner at her place, "My ex had this great way of showing affection. He would leave little notes around the apartment with things he loved about me. Maybe you could try something like that." Another time, after a minor disagreement about household chores when she stayed over at my place, she said, "My ex and I had this system where we divide tasks based on our schedules. It worked perfectly. Maybe we should try his approach." The breaking point came during a dinner with our friends. Someone asked about our plans for the upcoming holiday season. Before I could answer, she jumped in, "Well, my ex had this amazing tradition where he'd surprise me with a weekend getaway every Christmas. He planned everything down to the smallest detail." She then looked at me and added, "Maybe you could get some tips from him about holiday planning?" Our friends looked uncomfortable, and I felt completely humiliated. Later that night, I asked her more about her ex and their breakup. That's when she revealed something that made everything click into place. Her ex had ended their 3-year relationship by gradually becoming distant over a month, then taking her to their favorite restaurant, where he calmly explained that he had outgrown the relationship and needed to move on. According to her, it was the most mature and considerate way to end things. The way she described it, with this mixture of admiration and lingering attachment, made me realize 2 things. First, she wasn't over him, and second, she was subconsciously trying to mold me into his image. But what struck me most was how she kept praising his method of breaking up with her, calling it respectful and thoughtful. That's when I decided to give her exactly what she seemed to want, a breakup just like her ex had done. I spent the next few weeks carefully planning every detail, making sure to mirror his approach perfectly. I became slightly distant but not obviously so, maintained our routine but with subtle changes, and finally, made a reservation at what had become our favorite restaurant during our relationship. During those weeks of planning, her behavior only reinforced my decision. She continued with her comparisons, seemingly oblivious to how inappropriate they were. When I bought her flowers, she mentioned how her ex knew her exact favorite variety. When I cooked dinner, she talked about how her ex had learned to make authentic Italian dishes from his time studying abroad. It was like living in the shadow of a ghost. The weekend before our planned dinner, she reached a new level. We were at a friend's engagement party, and she spent nearly 20 minutes telling a group about how her ex had proposed to his new girlfriend. She had found out through social media and couldn't stop talking about how creative and romantic his proposal was. "He always did have a way with grand gestures," she said, giving me a pointed look. I maintained my composure through it all, playing the role of the understanding boyfriend while finalizing my plan. I made the reservation at the upscale French restaurant we had discovered together 3 months into our relationship. I chose a Thursday evening, just like her ex had done. I even made sure to dress in a way she had once mentioned her ex would dress for important occasions. The evening of the dinner, everything was perfect. The weather was mild, the restaurant was busy enough to provide ambient noise but not too crowded, and we were seated at a quiet corner table. She was in a great mood, having just received a promotion at work. As we settled in, she actually started telling me about how her ex had celebrated her last promotion with a surprise party. I let her finish her story, then smiled and said, all these months of hearing about your ex have been really enlightening. She looked surprised, probably because I'd never directly addressed her ex stories this way before. What do you mean? Well, I continued, maintaining the calm, measured tone she had so often praised her ex for using. I've learned a lot about what you value in a relationship. It's helped me understand exactly what needs to be done. Her face lit up. I could tell she thought this was leading to some grand gesture, where I'd promised to be more like her perfect ex. Really? That's so mature of you to take it that way. I always thought if you could just learn from some of his approaches. I have learned. I interrupted smoothly. I've learned that you're not over him. I've learned that you're trying to recreate your relationship with him through me. And most importantly, I've learned exactly how to end this relationship in a way you'll appreciate. The color drained from her face as realization began to dawn. What are you saying? I'm saying that, just like your ex did, I've realized I've outgrown this relationship. And just like him, I'm ending it in what you've described as the most mature and considerate way possible, at our favorite restaurant, with a calm explanation. Her face went through a rapid series of emotions: shock, confusion, hurt, and then anger. This isn't funny, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm not trying to be funny, I replied, keeping my tone even. I'm doing exactly what you've spent months praising. Breaking up with someone at their favorite restaurant, after a period of gentle distance, with a calm and rational explanation. Isn't this what you called the perfect way to end things? She gripped her wine glass so tightly I thought it might break. You're breaking up with me because I talked about my ex? No, I'm breaking up with you because you're clearly not over your ex, and you've spent our entire relationship trying to turn me into him. The constant comparisons, the helpful suggestions about how he would handle situations, the endless stories about his perfect qualities. It's not healthy for either of us. That's not fair, she protested. I was just trying to help our relationship grow. He had some really good. See? You're doing it right now, I interrupted. Even in this moment, you're defending him and his methods. You're so caught up in idolizing your past relationship that you can't even see how it's destroying your present one. She started to cry, but not the quiet, dignified tears she had described her ex handling so well. These were messy, mascara-running tears. You're being cruel, she accused. Actually, I'm being exactly what you wanted, methodical, calm, and direct, just like your ex. Isn't this the mature approach you praised so many times? This is completely different. How? Because it's happening to you this time instead of being something you can romanticize in hindsight. She tried a different approach. All couples have issues they need to work through. We can fix this. Maybe we could try couples counseling. Did you and your ex try couples counseling? I asked, knowing the answer. No, but then I'll pass. I wouldn't want to deviate from the perfect breakup model you've been advocating. The waitress approached our table, noticed the tension, and quickly retreated. My now ex grabbed her purse and stood up abruptly. You planned this whole thing just to hurt me, she accused. No, I planned it to give you exactly what you've been glorifying. I even made sure to choose Thursday night, just like he did. I'm wearing the kind of outfit you mentioned he wore for serious occasions. I picked a nice restaurant, just like he did. I'm being calm and rational, just like he was. I'm giving you the perfect breakup experience you've talked about so much. The only difference is that this time you're experiencing it instead of just reminiscing about it. She stormed out of the restaurant that night, but that wasn't the end of it. Over the next few weeks, her behavior showed me exactly why her ex had chosen such a calculated approach to ending things with her. First, she started showing up at my apartment unannounced. Your ex probably didn't appreciate unexpected visits either, I said the first time, not opening the door beyond the security chain. Wasn't that one of his perfect boundaries you kept mentioning? She left, but not before warning me that we weren't finished talking about this. Then came the item hostage situation. She texted me claiming she had found some of my belongings at her place, including my grandfather's vintage watch that I distinctly remembered leaving on my own nightstand. She insisted I needed to come over in person to get them, saying we should talk things through face to face like mature adults. The irony of her trying to manipulate a meeting while preaching about maturity wasn't lost on me. I responded by texting her, "Interesting. I've been recording the locations of my valuables ever since you started comparing me to your ex." I have dated photos of my watch at my apartment. Would you like me to involve the police in retrieving my lost items? The watch mysteriously appeared in my mailbox the next day. But her most entitled move came during a dinner party at our mutual friend's house. She had convinced them to invite both of us, not telling me she would be there. She arrived with a folder full of printed photos and screenshots of us together, along with a PowerPoint presentation, yes, really, analyzing our relationship and listing all the ways we could fix things. In front of everyone, she tried to stage what she called a relationship intervention. She had even prepared a schedule for how we would rebuild our connection, including mandatory daily phone calls and weekly date nights where I would learn from her ex's best practices. Our friends looked mortified as she started her presentation. This was her power play. She thought that in front of an audience, I would either have to go along with her plan or look like the unreasonable one. Instead, I calmly took out my phone and played a recording from our last dinner together, where she had spent 10 minutes describing how her ex's method of breaking up was the most mature and considerate way possible. Then I played clips from several other occasions where she had praised his breakup approach, followed by a clip of her numerous comparisons between me and him. Since you're so fond of presentations, I said, here's evidence of why this relationship ended. Now, would you like to explain to everyone why it's mature and considerate when he does it, but unacceptable when I follow the exact same approach? She left the dinner party in tears, but her attempts at manipulation weren't over. A week later, she orchestrated what I can only describe as a bizarre, recreated date scenario. She reserved the exact table at the French restaurant where I had broken up with her and asked our mutual friends to convince me to meet them there for a group dinner. When I arrived, only she was there, wearing the same dress from our first date, with a slideshow ready on her tablet comparing our relationship timeline with her previous relationship's successful milestones. I simply turned around and left, but she followed me to the parking lot, insisting that I wasn't following the proper relationship resolution protocol that her ex had established. According to her, I was supposed to give her exactly 3 chances to fix things because that's what happened in her previous relationship before the final breakup. Her next move was to contact my sister through social media, trying to get her to arrange a chance encounter at our family's annual barbecue. She sent my sister a detailed document titled, "Why Your Brother Needs to Follow the Proven Breakup Recovery Steps." My sister, who had heard plenty about her behavior, responded by blocking her and sending me screenshots of the conversation. The entitlement reached a new level when she created a shared calendar invite series titled Relationship Restoration Timeline and somehow got my email from a mutual friend. She scheduled daily reflection sessions and weekly improvement meetings for the next 6 months, each with detailed agendas comparing her ex's conflict resolution methods to our current situation. I responded by setting up an email filter to automatically decline all her calendar invites with a message, "Sorry, I'm busy taking tips from your ex on how to maintain boundaries post-breakup." The final straw came when she showed up at my gym. She had never been a member there and clearly signed up just to orchestrate another accidental meeting. She approached me while I was on the treadmill, armed with yet another folder of relationship improvement strategies based on her ex's workout routines and how couples should sweat together for better bonding. I stopped my workout, looked at her directly, and said loud enough for nearby people to hear, "You know what I learned from all your stories about your ex? That he was right to end things with someone who can't respect boundaries. I'm calling the gym management now to report harassment, and my next call will be to discuss a restraining order. Would you like to explain to a judge why you're stalking me with PowerPoint presentations about your ex-boyfriend habits?" That finally seemed to break through. The color drained from her face as she realized how her behavior might look to outsiders, especially in a legal context. She quickly left the gym, and I haven't seen her since, though I heard through mutual friends that she's been telling people she's taking a break from dating to focus on personal growth. It's been 3 months now, and I've processed enough to see things clearly. While my method of breaking up might seem calculated, it was necessary to break through her bubble of idealized past relationships. Sometimes, the only way to show someone their toxic behavior is to let them experience it from the other side. As for me, I'm focusing on moving forward. I've started dating again, and the first thing I look for now is how someone talks about their past relationships. It's amazing how much you can learn about a person from the way they handle their relationship history. And yes, I've kept all the recordings and documentation of her behavior, not to use them, but as a reminder to trust my instincts when something feels off in future relationships.
My parents demanded I move home to take care of them, then gave my room to my brother and made me sleep on the floor. When I refused to be their servant, they tried to ruin my reputation. So I cut them off. I'm 28, and I've always been the one in my family who gets things done. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the one who made good grades, stayed out of trouble, and generally didn't rock the boat. My younger brother, on the other hand, was the golden child. He could crash the car, fail a class, or completely screw up, and my parents would find a way to excuse it. He's just figuring things out, they'd say. Meanwhile, if I so much as forgot to take out the trash, I'd get a lecture about how I needed to be more responsible. When I graduated from college, I moved across the country. It wasn't just for work, though that's the reason I gave my parents. I needed space. The constant expectations, the favoritism, the double standards, I just couldn't do it anymore. Moving away gave me the freedom to build my own life, far away from all of that. For years, I only came home for the occasional holiday. We talked on the phone every so often, and things were fine as long as I kept my distance. That changed a few months ago when my dad had a health scare. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was serious enough that my mom decided they needed help. She called me, laying on the guilt as thick as possible. "Your dad isn't the same anymore," she said. "We can't handle this alone. You're the responsible one. Your brother just isn't in a position to help right now." I asked what she meant by not in a position. She said he was going through a rough patch. That's what she always said when he wasn't doing what he was supposed to. I later found out that rough patch meant he was still living at home, working part-time, and spending most of his time playing video games. At first, I told her I couldn't come. I had a life here, friends, a good job, stability. But she didn't let up. Every phone call was the same. "We need you. This is what family does. After everything we've done for you, the least you can do is help us." After weeks of this, I finally caved. I agreed to move back temporarily, just to help them get things under control. I figured I'd stay a few months, help set up a routine for them, and then go back to my life. When I got there, I realized how wrong I'd been. The first thing I noticed when I walked into the house was that my old room was gone. Not just the furniture, all of it. My posters, my books, even some childhood keepsakes were gone. My brother had taken over the space completely. When I asked where my stuff was, my mom shrugged. "Your brother needed the space," she said. "We thought you wouldn't mind." They'd set up an air mattress in the corner of the living room for me. I tried to tell myself it was temporary, but it was a slap in the face. I'd just uprooted my life to come help them, and they couldn't even leave me a place to sleep. Things only got worse from there. My parents expected me to cook, clean, and do most of the grocery shopping. My brother didn't do anything. He'd sit in his room, gaming for hours, while I was expected to pick up the slack. When I asked why he couldn't help, my mom gave me the same excuse as always. "He's going through a rough patch. You're the older one. You should understand." It all came to a head one night after dinner. My dad asked me to start handling his medical appointments. I told him I was already handling most of the cooking and cleaning, and that my brother should step up too. He just sighed and said, "You know your brother isn't as responsible as you." That's when I lost it. So because I'm responsible, I get to do everything while he does nothing? How is that fair? My mom tried to calm me down. "We're not asking for much. Just a little help while your dad recovers. Why are you making this so difficult?" I pointed at my brother, who was scrolling on his phone, pretending not to hear us. "He lives here too. Why can't he do something for once?" My brother finally looked up and said, "I didn't ask you to come back. If you don't want to be here, just leave." I stared at him, then at my parents. They didn't say a word. That was all I needed to know. The final straw came a week later. My parents hosted a family dinner, and during the meal, my mom started talking about how grateful they were to have me home. At first, I thought she was finally acknowledging my efforts. But then she said, "Thank God your brother has been here to keep things steady." I nearly choked. After dinner, I pulled my mom aside. "I can't do this anymore. You asked me to come back because you needed help, but you've treated me like an outsider the whole time. You gave my room to him and expect me to do everything while he sits around. I'm done." She looked offended. "We've done so much for you, and this is how you repay us? Your dad is sick, and you're making it all about yourself." I shook my head. "You're not asking for help. You're demanding sacrifice. And you're not even grateful for it. If you want me to stay, things need to change." She crossed her arms. If you don't want to be here, no one's forcing you. So I left. When I got back to my apartment, I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A couple of weeks later, my mom started sending me handwritten letters. They were filled with guilt-tripping nonsense about how I'd abandoned them in their time of need and how they were struggling to hold everything together. She wrote things like, "We raised you better than this," and "Family is supposed to stick together." It was exhausting to read, but I ignored them. She didn't stop there. She started posting vague statuses on Facebook that were clearly aimed at me. One said, "It's heartbreaking when family turns their back on you when you need them most," while another was an old family photo with the caption, "When family still meant something." I ignored those too, but soon enough, relatives started reaching out, asking why I wasn't helping my parents. It was clear my mom had been telling everyone that I'd abandoned them. I decided I wasn't going to let her control the narrative. I called up the relatives who'd reached out and explained everything. I told them how I'd moved back, how my parents had given my room to my brother, and how they'd treated me like a servant while he did nothing. Most of them were shocked, and a few even apologized for assuming the worst about me. To stop the public shaming, I posted my own update online. I wrote, "For those wondering why I'm not at home, I moved back to help my parents, but was treated more like a servant than family. I respect my boundaries and my worth, and I won't apologize for protecting both." That shut things down pretty quickly. But my parents weren't done. Not long after, my dad called me. At first, I thought he might be calling to apologize, but no. He was calling to ask for money. He said they'd run into some unexpected medical expenses and needed me to pitch in. I asked him why my brother couldn't help, and he immediately launched into the same tired excuse. "He's doing the best he can, but you know he's not in a position to help." I told him, "So, because I'm responsible, it's always on me? Why can't you ask him to step up for once?" His tone shifted immediately. "We raised you. We sacrificed so much for you. The least you can do is help us now that we need it." I wasn't in the mood to argue. I'm not in a position to help, and frankly, I don't think it's fair for you to keep asking me when he's right there doing nothing. He snapped, "You're so selfish. I can't believe this is the kind of person you've become." A week later, I found out they'd told my brother that I'd refused to help, and he sent me a long, angry text accusing me of abandoning the family and leaving everything on him. I knew he was just parroting what my parents had told him, so I didn't even bother responding. Instead, I sent an email to both of my parents. I wrote, "I've already uprooted my life once to help you, and you treated me like an outsider. Now you're asking for money while refusing to hold brother accountable for contributing. I'm done being the only one expected to sacrifice." After sending the email, I blocked my brother's number temporarily to avoid the guilt tripping. If he wanted to be angry, that was his problem. Then came the fake emergency. One night, my mom called me crying and said my dad had fallen and hit his head. She begged me to come home right away, saying, "We can't reach your brother, and I don't know what to do." I asked her if she'd called 911. She hesitated before saying, "We didn't want to cause a fuss." Something felt off, so I called my dad's phone directly. He answered on the second ring and sounded completely fine. When I asked what was going on, he said, "Your mom said we should call you." I don't know why. It was clear she'd made the whole thing up to manipulate me into coming home. I called her back and told her, "Don't ever fake an emergency to try to get me to come back. If you want me to visit, ask me like an adult. This is completely unacceptable." She tried to backpedal, saying, "I just wanted to see you. Is that so wrong?" I told her, "What's wrong is lying to me and trying to manipulate me. If you ever do this again, I'm done." She got defensive and said, "You're so ungrateful." All I wanted was to bring the family back together. I hung up and didn't take her calls for a while after that. A few months later, I heard from a cousin that my parents were threatening to change their will. Apparently, they'd been telling relatives that if I didn't step up and take care of them, they'd leave everything to my brother. My mom even said, "If he doesn't want to be part of the family, he doesn't deserve anything from us." I wasn't surprised. My parents have always used money as a way to control people. What they didn't understand was that I never expected or relied on an inheritance from them. I called my mom and said, "I heard about the will. Do whatever you want with your money. It's yours." But don't think you can use it to control me. She tried to argue, saying, "We just want to make sure we're taken care of. If you don't want to help, why should you get anything?" I told her, "You don't need to threaten me with something I don't care about. I've built my own life, and I don't need anything from you." She was stunned. I think she expected me to grovel or beg, but I didn't. The final straw came when they started actively trying to turn the extended family against me. They told people I'd abandoned them, refused to help, and was leaving my poor brother to handle everything on his own. At a family gathering, my aunt pulled me aside and asked what was really going on. I told her everything, how I'd moved back to help, how they gave my room to my brother, and how they expected me to do everything while he did nothing. I even showed her screenshots of texts from my mom and brother to back up my story. She was horrified. "They made it sound like you just didn't care," she said. "I can't believe they've been lying to everyone." Word spread quickly after that. My parents' attempts to paint me as the bad guy backfired when people started hearing the truth. Relatives stopped siding with them, and some even called them out for their behavior. It's been about a year since all of this went down, and I've gone no contact with my parents and brother. They still try to reach out occasionally, but I don't respond. I've learned that some people will never change, no matter how much you try to help them. Walking away was the best decision I've ever made. For the first time, I feel free to live my life on my own terms, without their manipulation hanging over me.
It's always his fault. My stepmom shouted, blaming me for her drunken scene at the family reunion. My father just nodded in agreement. I said nothing, just pulled out my phone. When I showed everyone the security footage, her perfect family image shattered in an instant. I, 28 male, have been dealing with my stepmom's BS for 15 years now. She married my dad after my mom died of cancer when I was 13. To everyone outside our house, she's this amazing woman, PDA president, bake sale queen, charity organizer. But behind closed doors? Total nightmare. She spent years making little digs about my mom, accidentally breaking stuff I inherited from her, and constantly reminding me I'm just like your mother. Never meant as a compliment. My dad checked out emotionally years ago. Easier to nod along with whatever she says than rock the boat. Last weekend was our annual family reunion at my grandparents' place. Last year, my grandpa installed security cameras after some break-ins in their neighborhood. Remember this detail, it's important. The reunion was going fine until my stepmom started hitting the wine hard. By dinner time, she was legit drunk, but trying to hide it. As we're eating, she knocks over her wine glass, spilling red wine all over my aunt's white dress. While helping, she manages to knock over the entire bottle. Then she looks right at me and says, "You know who else was clumsy? His mother. Must be genetic." I got up to help my aunt with paper towels, and behind me I hear a crash. My stepmom had followed and knocked over a stack of plates. That's when she points at me and screams, "It's always his fault. He moved those plates there on purpose. He's always trying to make me look bad." My father, who hasn't stood up for me in 15 years, puts his arm around her and says, "Son, why don't you just give her some space?" I've played this scene a million times, get blamed, apologize, smooth things over. But something snapped. Instead of apologizing, I pulled out my phone, opened the security app my grandpa had given family access to, and turned the volume all the way up. The footage showed everything. My stepmom refilling her wine glass like 7 times when nobody was looking, her stumbling into the plates that had been in the same spot all day. But the real kicker was footage from earlier, when my stepmom and dad were talking near the garden. "I can't stand having him here," she said, clearly not knowing they were being recorded. "Always reminds me of her. Can't he skip just one family thing? My dad, he'll be gone soon enough. Just get through today." My stepmom froze mid-sip. My dad stared at his plate. The whole table went quiet AF. My aunt, mom's sister, was the first to speak. "What the hell is this?" My stepmom immediately went into victim mode, tears, trembling voice, the works. "You don't understand how hard it's been. Coming into a family where she was treated like a saint." My grandfather stood up. "I think you both should leave. Now." As they gathered their things, my dad finally looked at me. "We should talk about this at home." I just shook my head. There's nothing to talk about. And it hasn't been my home since she moved in. They left, and my phone started blowing up with texts almost immediately. My aunt offered her guest room until things settled down, and I accepted. It's been 3 days, and I'm still processing everything. My phone has like 30 plus missed calls, and a ton of texts alternating between tearful apologies from my stepmom and angry demands from my dad to fix this situation. For 15 years, I've been the family scapegoat. Tonight, everyone finally saw the truth. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. Thanks for all the support. To answer some FAQs. 1. Yes, other families suspected something was off, but stepmom is really good at keeping up appearances too. No, I'm not planning to reconcile with my dad anytime soon. 3. Yes, I'm in therapy already. Update THX for all the support on my original post. Never expected so many people to care about my family drama. These past 2 weeks have been wild. After crashing at my aunt's for a few days, I went back to my apartment. My phone kept blowing up, 30+ missed calls and a ton of texts. Started with my stepmom's fake tears, you misunderstood. Then my dad's angry demands to talk, and finally desperate pleas for contact. For the first time ever, I didn't respond to any of it. After years of immediately apologizing to keep the peace, just not answering felt kinda revolutionary. TBH. The family grapevine has been lit. Turns out, people have noticed my stepmom's manipulation for years, but never connected the dots. My cousin told my aunt that my stepmom had told her I skipped her wedding because I was jealous, when actually I'd shown her my conflicting work schedule and how upset I was to miss it. More stories like this started coming out. Little lies my stepmom had told about me over the years to make me look bad. When viewed together, it's a pretty disturbing pattern. The big surprise came when my maternal grandmother called. We've stayed in touch, but there's been distance. Now I realize my stepmom was probably interfering there too. Grandma had something she wanted me to have, a box my mom prepared before she died. Letters for birthdays, graduation, future events she knew she'd miss. This box was supposed to be given to me when I turned 18, but my dad gave it to my grandmother instead, claiming it would be too painful right after graduation. Reading these letters hit me hard, seeing my mom's handwriting, hearing her voice through her words. One line really got me. Don't let anyone convince you that moving forward means forgetting. Then my grandfather requested a meeting. Turns out, he'd been reviewing security footage from previous family gatherings too. He showed me clips of my stepmom accidentally spilling things on gifts I'd brought, making cutting remarks when she thought no one could hear, subtly moving items before claiming I'd moved them. Small stuff that could be dismissed individually, but together? Clearly intentional. I knew something wasn't right, my grandfather said, but your father always insisted you were just having a hard time accepting their marriage. I should have looked closer. My grandparents are changing their will. They'd planned to leave their house to my dad, but now it's going into a trust for all grandchildren equally. My dad's been informed, and apparently that conversation did not go well. Yesterday, my dad showed up at my workplace. He's never visited my office in the 6 years I've worked there. I refused to see him, but he sat in the lobby for 2 hours before security had to make him leave. The receptionist said his parting words were, "Tell him he's making a mistake. Families should work things out privately." Today, I finally agreed to meet him, alone in public, with a strict time limit. He looked rough, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, bloodshot eyes. He started with his usual script about how your stepmom is devastated and family matters should stay private. I let him talk himself out. Then I asked one question. What happened to Mom's blue jewelry box with her grandmother's ring? It disappeared years ago. When I asked back then, they both insisted I must have misplaced it. My dad couldn't look me in the eye. She said it would be easier for everyone if we didn't have constant reminders, he finally admitted. That it would help you move on. Did you believe that? Or was it just easier than standing up to her? The silence said everything. I thought I was protecting you, he finally offered. From more pain. No, I said. You were protecting yourself. From discomfort. I told him I needed space and time. That if he wanted any relationship with me going forward, things would have to fundamentally change. Starting with complete honesty, to me, to himself, to the family. My stepmom texted right after. Whatever he told you is only his perspective. There are 2 sides to every story. I didn't respond, but I did call my therapist and schedule an emergency session. The silver lining in all this has been reconnecting with my mom's family. My aunt has invited me for weekly dinners. My grandmother wants to show me photo albums I've never seen. It's like a dam broke, releasing not just painful truths, but also connections that had been systematically cut over the years. I still don't know what my relationship with my dad and stepmom will look like going forward, if there even is one. For now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my understanding of the past 15 years and establishing boundaries that protect the person I'm trying to become. As my therapist put it, healing doesn't mean the damage never existed. It means the damage no longer controls your life. Update. Hey Reddit. Wasn't planning another update, but a lot has happened, and I wanted to give you guys some closure. The biggest development: my dad and stepmom are getting divorced. This isn't directly because of the reunion incident, though that was the catalyst. My dad's been in therapy twice a week and says he's recognizing patterns of manipulation that have shaped their entire relationship. I enabled her treatment of you because confronting it would have meant confronting my own weakness, he told me during one of our cautious coffee meetups. It was easier to believe you were overreacting than to admit I wasn't protecting you. We're not back to the relationship we had before my mom died, that's impossible. But we're slowly building something new. The turning point was when he asked if I'd visit my mom's grave with him, something we hadn't done together since my stepmom came into our lives and called it unhealthy dwelling. My stepmom has gone full damage control mode. She's been sending emails to family members about my supposed emotional instability and jealousy of her motherly love. She even created a private Facebook group for family healing that's basically just a place for her to trash me. But it's backfiring spectacularly. Too many people have seen the security footage, and too many have their own stories of her manipulation now. Her carefully built image is crumbling as friends and family recognize patterns they'd dismissed over the years. Last week, she left town suddenly, announcing she's starting fresh in another state. According to my stepsister, who I've gotten surprisingly close with through all this, this is her mom's standard move. When she can't control the narrative anymore, she abandons the story completely. The extended family has been having some real conversations about how we enabled this behavior for so long. As my grandfather put it, we all saw pieces, but thought they were isolated incidents. And none of us wanted to create drama by speaking up. As for me, I've continued therapy and focused on rebuilding trust in my own perceptions. I've reconnected with my mother's family in ways I never thought possible. My aunt gave me a cookbook filled with my mom's handwritten notes, something my stepmom would have accidentally thrown out years ago. The most profound change has been internal. For 15 years, I built my identity around avoiding conflict. Don't trigger stepmom's jealousy, don't challenge dad's denial, don't disrupt the family narrative. I became smaller and quieter to accommodate their dysfunction. That version of me, the one who would have apologized at the reunion rather than show the footage, is gone. In his place is someone who understands that real relationships require honesty, even when that honesty is uncomfortable. Recently, during dinner with my dad, he mentioned something that showed how much things have changed. You laugh like her, he said. When you find something really funny, that full-body laugh, it's exactly like your mother. 5 years ago, such a comment would have triggered days of cold silence and tears from my stepmom. Now, it was just a moment of connection between a father and son about someone we both loved. I don't know what the future holds. Relationships damaged by years of gaslighting don't heal overnight. But that moment at the reunion, choosing to show evidence rather than accept blame, permanently changed the power dynamic. The truth, once seen, can't be unseen. To everyone who's followed this story and offered support, thank you. Your perspectives help me recognize patterns I might have dismissed and hold boundaries I might have compromised. If there's any wisdom I can offer from this experience, it's this: trust yourself. That quiet voice saying something isn't right here deserves your attention, even when louder voices try to drown it out. Gaslighting works by making you doubt your own reality. The antidote isn't perfect certainty. It's the courage to honor your experience even when others deny it. 6 months ago, I stood in shock as my stepmom blamed me for her drunken scene. In that moment, pulling out my phone instead of apologizing felt like a small act of self-preservation. I couldn't have known how that single decision would unravel 15 years of family fiction. Today, I'm rebuilding not just my past, but my future. And in that process, I'm finding myself again.
My stepmom spent years treating me like an outsider in my own home. When Dad died, she immediately listed my childhood house for sale. Your father would want me to move on, she said through fake tears. That night, I found Dad's laptop with emails about her previous marriages and the 3 deceased husbands before him. Instead of confronting her, I called his lawyer. At the will reading, as she reached for the property deed, police officers entered instead. We have some questions about your past, they said. Her face went white as I nodded goodbye. I, 31M, never got along with my stepmom. She entered my life when I was 14, after my mom passed from cancer. Dad was a mess after mom died, and looking back, he probably just couldn't handle being alone. They met at some grief support group thing. At least that's what she claimed. Within 6 months, they were married, and she moved into our family home. From day one, she made it clear I wasn't part of her new picture-perfect family. Started with little stuff, rearranging my bedroom without asking, accidentally donating my mom's stuff I had kept, making comments like, "You take after your mother too much," not compliment when she said it. Dad never noticed or just looked the other way. Think he was so scared of losing someone again that he couldn't see how she treated me when he wasn't looking. I moved out at 18 for college and kept low contact. Visits were awkward AF. She'd act like the perfect stepmom when Dad was in the room, then whisper little digs when he wasn't looking. Stuff like, "Your father worries about you so much, maybe if you called more." Or, "This family photo would look better without you ruining the symmetry." Yeah, real piece of work. So anyway, 3 weeks ago, Dad died suddenly of a heart attack at 62. I was completely wrecked. We had our issues, but he was still my dad. At the funeral, my stepmom was doing her perfect grieving widow act. Dabbing at dry eyes, doing that weird head tilt thing while accepting condolences. I just tried to get through it without completely losing it. 2 freaking days after the funeral, she called to tell me she was listing the house. My childhood home. The home my actual mom and dad bought together. The place with height marks on the kitchen doorframe, and where Dad built me that treehouse when I was 7. She was like, "Your father would want me to move on," in this fake sad voice. "This house has too many memories." I was like, "WDF? Don't you think we should wait? Go through his things properly." "I've already started packing," she said. "You can come take whatever you want this weekend, then I need everything else gone. The realtor is coming Monday." Something felt super off. Dad loved that house. No way he'd want to sell it, especially not this fast. So I drove over Saturday to collect my things, but really to figure out what was going on. The house was already half-packed, and I noticed some expensive-looking new luggage by the door. She pointed to a couple boxes. "These are your father's personal items. Take what you want." While going through Dad's stuff, I realized his laptop was missing. When I asked about it, she got weird and defensive. "That old thing. I donated it. Nothing important on there." Yeah, right. This is my dad we're talking about, the guy who kept every email since like 1998 and documented everything. No way. While she was on the phone with someone talking about finally being free, which was super creepy, I checked his office and found nothing. Then I remembered this hidden compartment in his closet where he used to hide Christmas presents. Checked there and boom, found the laptop and a folder of documents. I slipped both into my backpack and acted normal. She barely noticed, too busy planning whatever the hell she was doing next. Got home and opened the laptop. Dad's password was still the same, Mom's birthday plus my birthday combined. What I found was straight out of a crime show. Dad had been investigating my stepmom. Like really investigating. Folders of emails, screenshots, notes. Turns out he'd gotten suspicious about her past and started digging. According to his notes, she'd been married 3 times before him, all ending when her husbands died unexpectedly. All with decent life insurance. All ruled as natural causes or accidents. The folder had copies of death certificates, insurance docs, newspaper clippings. Dad had circled stuff that didn't add up, dates that didn't match her stories. His last note was from 3 days before he died, meeting with lawyer tomorrow. Need to protect assets and get J help. J equals my stepmom. I sat there just staring at the screen feeling sick. Like, this couldn't be real life. But as I read more, it started making horrible sense. Dad's heart attack came out of nowhere. He was healthy, took his meds, saw his doctor regularly. Then suddenly dies, and she immediately moves to sell the house, just like she apparently did before. My first thought was to confront her, but then I realized, if what I was seeing was true, that would be stupid AF. So instead, I found Dad's lawyer's number and called first thing Sunday morning. Left a message saying I needed to talk to him urgently about Dad's will and some documents I found. He called back pretty quick and agreed to meet that afternoon. I brought everything, laptop, folder, copies I made of the important stuff. The lawyer, Dad's friend for years, looked seriously concerned as I explained. "Your father came to see me last week," he told me. He was worried about his wife's past and wanted to change his will. "We did the paperwork, but he died before it was filed," I said. He nodded. He did express concerns that if anything happened to him, there should be an investigation. I documented our conversation. He leaned forward. I've known your father for 30 years. If he was worried enough to change his will, we need to take this seriously. We called a detective he knew. I showed them everything. The detective said it was circumstantial but enough to look into, especially given the timing and pattern. The will reading was scheduled for Monday, same day my stepmom planned to meet realtors. The lawyer suggested we proceed normally, not tip her off. Didn't sleep at all that night. Kept thinking maybe I was overreacting. But then I'd remember how fast she moved to erase Dad from that house. How she'd treated me for years. Dad's detailed notes. At the will reading, my stepmom showed up in designer black, looking way less sad than at the funeral. Barely looked at me, just focused on the lawyer. Let's get this over with, she said. I have appointments this afternoon. The lawyer read the will, standard stuff about assets and accounts. Her smile got bigger as he mentioned the house. Just as he was about to hand her what she thought was the property deed, the door opened. 2 police officers walked in with the detective I'd met. Mrs. Last name, one officer said. We have some questions about your past, specifically about your previous marriages. She went white, like ghost white, looked at me and finally got it. I just nodded and walked out, leaving her to deal with the mess she'd made. The detective called later saying they're investigating fully, maybe even exhuming previous husbands. House sale is on hold. The lawyer is helping contest the will based on Dad's visit before his death. Maybe now there'll be justice, for Dad, for me, and for 3 other families who never knew why they lost someone. Edit, holy crap, didn't expect this to blow up. R.I.P. my inbox. Thanks for all the support. Edit 2, to those asking why I didn't just confront her, if she killed 4 husbands, you think I'm gonna tip her off that I know? No thanks, I choose life. Update 1, 2 weeks later. So it's been 2 weeks since the will reading disaster for her, and wow, a lot has happened. First, T checks for all the comments on my last post. Those of you who said I should be careful were 100% right. I've moved in with a buddy temporarily, and only the detective knows where I am. Quick update on the case. They've frozen all Dad's assets during the investigation, which means my stepmom can't sell the house or touch most of the accounts. She is pissed. Has called me like, hold on, let me check. 37 times now, yes I'm counting. Left voicemails that range from sobbing apologies to threatening to sue me for defamation and ruining her life. Haven't responded to any, just forward them to the detective handling everything. The investigation is moving faster than I thought it would. Dad's notes gave them a good starting point, I guess. Had to go answer more questions about Dad before he died. Was he sick, acting weird, mentioned feeling off, any enemies, etc. Told them everything I could think of. Big news came yesterday. They're digging up husband number 2. Detective found weird stuff in the autopsy that the medical examiner signed off on. Now they're looking at the Me Too, who's retired but handled 2 of her previous husband's cases. Sketchy AF, right? On the legal side, the lawyer filed to contest the will because of Dad's visit right before he died. Got a hearing next month. Meanwhile, I've been going through Dad's finances with this forensic accountant guy the lawyer knows. We found some concerning stuff, money going from Dad's accounts to some offshore thing over the past year. Small amounts that wouldn't look weird alone, but add up to like $120,000. Classic draining technique, apparently. Found something that wrecked me while checking Dad's email. He'd been trying to reconnect with me. Had all these draft emails he never sent about how he realized he'd messed up by not standing up to my stepmom, how he wanted us to be close again. Last one was just a week before he died. Broke down reading them. Didn't need that kind of guilt on top of everything else. Random thing, ran into my stepmom's daughter from a previous marriage, not one of the suspicious ones I guess, at a coffee shop yesterday. Haven't seen her in forever, she's around my age, but we were never close. She seemed shocked by everything, and said she'd had her own issues with her mom, but never imagined this. Said her mom was acting weird before Dad died, packing stuff secretly, researching places in some other country, seeming excited about something. She's talking to the detective too. Been keeping track of everything, and trying to stay under the radar. Lawyer says cases like this take forever to build properly, but they're moving as fast as they can. Started seeing a therapist to deal with, well, all of this. Grief, shock, betrayal, the whole package. Will update when I know more. Edit. Thanks for all the awards, but seriously save your money. Donate to domestic violence orgs instead. Edit 2. To answer the most common questions. 1. Yes, I'm safe. 2. No, I'm not making this up. 3. Yes, I'm aware this sounds like a movie plot, but welcome to my actual life right now. Update 2, 1 month later. Holy shit, things have moved fast since my last update. Still trying to process everything. First, the medical stuff. They didn't just dig up husband number 2, they got approval for number 3 too. Results came back last week. Both had traces of some plant toxin that looks like heart attack symptoms, but disappears after a few days. That's why it wasn't caught before. They're rushing to test Dad's samples now. The investigation into the me found he got consulting fees from some LLC that eventually traced back to my stepmom through a bunch of shell companies. Detective didn't tell me exact numbers, but said it was enough for a boat called early retirement. Subtle. He's under investigation now too. The real breakthrough came when they searched a storage unit in my stepmom's name. What they found is straight-up serial killer stuff. Journals about her relationships, with entries about how disappointing each husband became. Locked case with vials of stuff being tested. Financial records showing like $2.7 million hidden in offshore accounts. Passports with different names but her photo. Half-packed suitcase with property brochures from some country that doesn't extradite. While this was happening, the daughter I mentioned last time called me crying. Said she found her old childhood diaries where she wrote about giving her stepdad, husband number 2, special tea her mom made when he worked late. The entries described how he got super sick after drinking it. She realized she might have unknowingly helped poison him as a kid. Absolutely messed up. She took this to the police, which was enough for them to bring in my stepmom for questioning. She tried to play innocent at first, but when confronted with the storage unit stuff and her daughter's statement, she tried to make a deal. According to the detective, she offered to tell them everything about the ME's involvement if they'd cut her a deal. They said no, especially after Dad's toxicology came back positive for the same stuff found in the other husbands. She was arrested yesterday and charged with Dad's murder. More charges coming for the other husbands as they build those cases. DA thinks they can convict even without her confession. The lawyer says with the criminal charges, the court has already invalidated the changes to Dad's will after he married her. This means it reverts to his previous will, which left the house and most of his stuff to me. Still tracking down all the money she took, but they've frozen the offshore accounts they found. Went back to the house yesterday for the first time since everything happened. Felt weird walking through the rooms, seeing half-packed boxes, family photos she'd taken down, spaces where Mom's things used to be. Sat on the back porch where Dad and I used to hang out, and just lost it for a while. Long road ahead with trials and investigations and sorting through Dad's estate. Part of me wants to keep the house to reclaim the memories. Part feels like it's ruined now. Been talking to the families of the previous husbands. They're in shock but also relieved to finally have answers. We're planning to meet next month to support each other. The daughter and I have talked more. She feels super guilty even though she was just a kid being manipulated. Told her she was a victim too. Thinking of starting a support group for families dealing with this kind of stuff. Taking it day by day. Back in therapy. Reconnecting with friends I drifted away from during the bad years with my stepmom. Found some of Mom's old journals in the attic that somehow survived the stepmom purges. Reading them helps. Sometimes I wake up thinking this can't be real. But then I remember Dad's notes, how he tried to protect me even at the end, and I know I need to see this through for him. Edit, wow, this blew up again. Can't respond to everyone, but I'm reading comments. Edit 2, for those saying this is fake, I wish it was. For those asking for news articles, not sharing anything that could identify me, sorry. Final update, 6 months later. Been 6 months since everything blew up. Figured I'd post one last update. Still feels surreal typing this out. Big news first, stepmom took a plea deal. With all the evidence plus her daughter's testimony, her lawyers told her fighting would just get her a worse sentence. She got life without parole for Dad's murder, plus consecutive sentences for the other 2 husbands they could definitely connect to her. The me also took a deal for covering up the deaths. Had to give a victim impact statement at sentencing. Looking her in the eyes while talking about what she took from me, time with Dad, feeling safe in my own home, basic trust in people, was harder than I expected. She just stared back with this empty look. No remorse, not even anger anymore. Nothing behind the eyes. The other victims' families spoke too. One woman brought her kids, adults now, who never got to know their dad. Made me realize I wasn't alone in this messed up experience. After sentencing, her daughter, I'll call her Elle, came up to me. We've actually become friends through all this. She gave me a small box with my mom's wedding ring in it. Apparently, Stepmom kept it after telling me years ago she'd lost it while cleaning. Finding that piece of mom again hit hard. The money stuff is mostly sorted. They tracked most of what she siphoned, and the court ordered it returned. Dad's life insurance, which she couldn't collect because of the murder charge, came to me as the secondary beneficiary. Used some to set up a small foundation in my parents' names for kids who've lost parents to violent crime. About the house, decided to keep it. At first thought I'd sell, too many bad memories. But after spending time there, cleaning out her stuff, repainting, making it mine again, realized it's where I feel closest to both parents. Found Dad's old workshop tools in the garage, and have been learning woodworking, something he tried to teach me before stepmom drove us apart. Last month finally finished going through all Dad's digital files. Found a video in an encrypted folder that he recorded days before he died. He looked exhausted but determined. Explained his suspicions, apologized for not seeing the truth sooner, said he loved me. If anything happens to me, he said, know that my biggest regret was not being the father you deserved after your mom died. Watched it like 50 times. The support group L and I started has grown bigger than expected. Started with just the affected families, but now includes others with similar experiences. A true crime podcast reached out about covering the case. Still deciding whether to do it. Yesterday was Dad's birthday. Would have been 63. Had some of his old friends over, plus L, and people from our support group. Grilled in the backyard, told stories, laughed more than cried. Looking around at these people, some new because of this nightmare, others reconnected after years, made me realize something. My stepmom spent years making me feel like an outsider in my own home and family. Tried to erase me, then Dad, then our history. But she failed. I'm still here. The house is still standing. The truth came out. Never getting back the years lost with Dad. Never fully understanding how someone could do all this for money. But I'm moving forward now, carrying both parents with me in ways she could never erase. To everyone who followed this crazy journey, thanks. Your support helped during the worst times. Probably won't post about this again. Time to close this chapter and focus on what comes next. Sometimes justice doesn't fix everything, but it makes room for healing to begin. Edit. Thanks for all the awards and kind messages. For those asking, yes, I'm doing better. No, I don't want to share what state this happened in or any news links.